You know, as a child, you know, what stands out to me is that number one was sexual molestation. And you know, my older sister and her girlfriends, and even my kindergarten teacher. Two would be the violence. When I was finally big enough to go out the front gate, I began getting jumped. There was a lot of racial tension in Oakland back in the late 50s, 60s. And so I experienced that. And finally, the most important was I heard the gospel, and I instantly believed in Jesus. I loved the story. It was just something about it. It was real. It wasn't, you know, like other things. It wasn't ordinary. Another thing that happened to me about that time was my sister and her boyfriend, who later became my brother-in-law, they were going to party at my mother's house. And I don't know if they just didn't want me to tell on them or what, but they rolled me a joint. And they bought me a six-pack of tall Old English 800, and for the first time in my life, I got loaded. I always wanted to experience the military, so I went ahead and I was part of the volunteer army. I went into artillery. My goal was to make a career out of the military. I was hoping that I finally stumbled on something, but when I got there, everybody was drinking and drugging and everything else, and there went I started drinking. I learned how to shoot dope there. And on one of our war games we were playing, I crushed some vertebrae in my back. I was honorably discharged and got out of the Army, but I had a few jobs and I didn't know the extent of my injury. And my back went out on me at work in 3 different jobs in a row, and I was fired. And so, you know, at that time, I had a girlfriend that, you know, I thought we'd probably get married. I lost that. I lost everything again. I lost my apartment. So I was back at my mother's house sitting on the porch, and I seen some guys across the street, and it was obvious they were copying dope. So once I started using again, and I felt that heroin, it did ease my back, and you know, it was medication. And I then began to get hooked. The stealing started. You know, my mother put me out of the house. You know, she wouldn't let me be there because I was worth nothing. I was lost. I was falling and falling fast. The homelessness. I found out about the VA, that they had a program. I went to a program and I learned some good stuff. That psychobabble, it all pertained, but it wasn't enough to clean me up. The Lord turned the heat up on me and left me in the streets without an arrest for over 3 years. There was 2 murder attempts made on my life. I began to overdose, but yet I did not die. And one day I was walking down, I call it my road to Damascus. I spiritually shook my fist at God and said, "Are you enjoying this? You know I don't know how to live, but you won't let me die." He then spoke to my heart and said, "You owe 90 days. And I thought about it, and I remember I did have a probation, and so the very next day I was obedient and I turned myself in. And I started again to just read Bible and pray, read Bible and pray. And the relationship that I had when I was a child was renewed again. And the power of the Lord and the Word was coming upon me. More and more I was learning the Word and how true it is and how it applied to my life. And, you know, the jail, the prison, I to this day have never felt more freedom being in San Quentin with the Holy Ghost than I ever have out here. It's just the power of God. I was kicked off parole 2 years early because my parole agent said, "You're not a convict. I don't understand why you were locked down. You should be watching me." And he made a phone call and I was released. I was a new creation. Now, upon my release from the penitentiary, for the first time I walked by faith. And I found a handout. We call it investigation. And that was the only thing I found, and it said on the back, Castro Valley, which is close to Oakland. So instead of getting released and staying around Oakland, I went straight to find this place. That unction of the Holy Ghost, I just went. A woman answered the door, and she asked me, she said, "Hi, how you doing?" And I said, "Hi, I'm Steve. I was just released from prison, and I started studying. I didn't know why I was there, but the Lord must have quickened her." And she goes, "Have you ever done prison ministry?" And I said, "Well, that's what I do. That's what I'm going to do." And she goes, "Well, that's what we do here." And I came in, and in 1995, I became a member of Follow Up Ministries Incorporated. Doing prison ministry, I found that the rest of my life, all those things from childhood up, make sense. It's given me an understanding of human beings, to know Christ and to be delivered as I am. It's just great. You know, I never thought that a blessing like this existed on this earth. And that's basically my story.
Hello, Grace Church. This gives us a great opportunity to get outside of our box and to reach out to folks that are locked up in prison. And I know this could be a scary thing. I'll be honest with you, I've never done prison ministry, and it scares me a little bit. But I know that God has called me, He's called our church to step up and get outside of our box and reach out to these folks. So what we're asking you to do is to consider showing up on May 18th for our seminar. It's only $30. We had advertised for $45, but it's actually $30. You could sign up at the Welcome Center today, put your name down there, and let's just say you can't afford this. We are more than willing to provide a scholarship for you. So please consider reaching out to folks like Steve and bringing the gospel even to a place like our local prisons. Thank you.